The story begins in the airport, where all the students gather there to go on a field trip. As they were all on the flight had a malfunction, and it crashes on a strange stranded island. Matsumi, on waking up from the crash, starts panicking because she saw that she was on a strange land. After calming down, she starts searching for her bag and was relieved to find it. But suddenly, she saw a hand of a dead human. She was terrified, so she runs away to the nearby jungle of that island. She starts shouting Chidose loudly, which was the name of her close friend, as she was worried about her. But then she met one of her classmates instead. Matsuoka was relief on seeing her. Matsumi inquires her on who else made it, and she replies that she is the first person she met so far. Matsuoka explains to Matsumi that this island is not completely inhabited, as she had found some household utensils earlier, and thought that there might be people living there. They checked their phones and saw that there is no reception. So they both decide to search for the people who might be living there, and they might find the other survivors as well. Meanwhile, there are other students who managed to survive the plane crash as well. The hot girl from their class named Gino tells the boys to go find her some food, and in return she will show them something boing boing. They decides to be a chat and tells her they are not interested because she is ugly, so she use her popular classmate Mami and flash her weapon to them. They immediately lose the battle. Shidase came and tries to stop Gino from bullying Mami, but one of their classmates stops them and tells them that it is useless to fight, and instead they should focus on finding food first, so that they could survive on that island. One of their classmates, named Kai, asks if anyone has a working phone in order to search for the location of the place they are in. Shidase tells them that her phone is working, but it has no reception. They were all demotivated on hearing this. But seeing the vending machine, they all thought that maybe there are people living in that place. So they all decides to search for them. One of their classmates tells them that she needs to go for a nature's call. As she was relieving herself, she saw 2 giant butterfly coming towards her. She screams loudly, shouting for help, and everyone rushes towards her. Matsumi and Matsuoka also hears her scream, and they rushes towards her as well. The butterfly kills the girl by sucking her dry, and the 2 boys were also sucked dry as they were trying to save Mami from the butterflies. Matsumi and Matsuoka made it to the scene and saw the horrible sight. Shidase was about to be killed by those giant butterflies. In order to help her, Matsuoka used a knife she found earlier and attacked the butterfly, but it was of no use because their skin was very tough. Matsumi, using her knowledge about the insects, managed to save everyone by killing one of those butterflies using a gas spray with lighter that Matsuoka had found earlier. Everyone was overjoyed, but Matsumi was sad because she loved insects. They met the remaining survivors from their class, and they were all panicking and complaining, and they were wondering what is going on, because they were all terrified on seeing those giant butterflies that kill 3 of their classmates. One of their classmates, Kai, puts up a question. Is it normal for a butterfly to be that big in a tropical island? Matsumi explains that it is impossible because the insects in the modern era could only survive if they are small. Otherwise, they will be extinct. Knowing that Matsumi knows a lot of information about insects, Shidase asks her for advice on what to do next. She tells them that they need to hide and survive for 3 days until the self-defense force will come to rescue them. Because the self-defense force are bound to come since there might be people living there and they would have reported about the butterflies. As they were all discussing on what to do next, they hear a helicopter sound, and so they run towards it as they all thought that help has arrived. But then, it was not a helicopter, but instead, it is a giant wasp. On seeing this, Shidase immediately sacrificed herself to save Matsumi, and she was carried away by the wasp. Matsumi was devastated, but Matsuoka tells her not to give up. But they should go and save Shidase instead. But sadly, most of their classmates disagree and tells her that Shidase is dead, and they should prioritize their own safety, and she should forget about her. And one of their classmates, Atsushi, came and starts telling them that they need to find a leader to handle situations like these, and he tries to recommend himself. But Matsumi starts explaining to everyone that Shidase is not dead, as the wasp that carried her was a mud wasp, and it usually used paralyzing agent and carries their prey back to their nest, and she tells them that she knows where it went. Most of her classmates disagree and tells her they should wait for the rescue team to come and rescue her in 3 days. Matsumi immediately replies, telling them that they should hurry in saving her. Otherwise, the egg of the wasp will hatch and they will start eating Shidase from the inside. They were all terrified upon hearing this. Matsuoka tells Matsumi that they should leave the rest of their heartless classmates and go save her together. Atsushi stops them and he self-proclaimed himself as a leader, and tells them that he won't let them go because it will reduce their number of people, which might reduce their chance of survival as well. So, Matsumi tells him that Shidase has a working phone as she knows it is waterproof, and they could call for help to rescue them from that island. But Atsushi immediately tells her that they cannot make calls because there is no service in that island. In order to convince him, Matsumi starts explaining that they can use the GPS on her phone to know their exact location and altitudes. And knowing this, she can use her knowledge to predict what kind of insects live in that island, so that they can increase their chance of survival, and eventually they all agreed to save Shidase. As they were proceeding on their way, one of their classmates, Kai, asks, "Is it really safe to approach a wasp nest?" Matsumi tells them that they are more safe in the nest than outside, because a mud wasp never returned to their nest once they lay their eggs there. After a while, they reach a place where it looked like a village, but it was abandoned, and they saw a house where the wasps had turned it into its nest. They were all afraid to go inside, but they had to make a choice to go in. But when they opened a room of that house, they saw a horrible sight, where most of their classmates were there and they were being eaten alive by the larvae of the wasp. They thought of helping them, but they know that it is too late, and so they all fled away from that room. Matsumi suggests them that they should continue checking the other house to find Shidase. But then, Kai tells her that they don't need to anymore, since he already found a working smartphone from that room earlier. As they were arguing, another wasp came and it was carrying one of Atsushi's close friend, Akira. Seeing this, Atsushi immediately went after it to help his friend, but the wasp immediately attacks him, but he was saved by Matsumi. But even after that, he went after the wasp, and Matsumi decides to go after him. As she reached inside the nest, she immediately saw a wasp who was attacking Atsushi. But both of them managed to escape, and they found both of their friends. Matsumi tries to carry Shidase outside, who was unconscious from the wasp's venom, but she was too heavy, so she asked Atsushi for help, but he ran away instead while carrying his unconscious friend Akira. Suddenly, a huge number of wasps came in that nest, and as the wasp tries to attack Matsumi, she was really worried. But then Natsuoka came to save her, and they managed to run away from that nest and regroup again. Matsumi ignores on what Atsushi did back there, and she tells them that they need saline water or sports drink in order to remove the poison of the wasp from their unconscious friend to revive them. So Kai recommends that they should go to a place he saw on the direction board, as it might have their necessary item. As they were walking, Gino asked Matsumi, why did all the wasps came to the nest, even though she said they wouldn't? And why did the wasp attack each other in that nest? Matsumi explains to them that it was her plan to call them, and she used a hairspray to attract them. And the reason that they fought each other is because she put the hairspray on one of the wasps, and so all the wasps was stimulated to attack it. And because of this, they all managed to survive and save Shidase. She also warns everyone not to use cosmetics on that island, because it will attract the insects, and they could all get killed. Hearing all this, Matsuoka got curious, so she asked Matsumi how did she know all this, to which she explains that in the past, there was a teacher that piques her interest about insects and how wonderful they are, and that's the reason why she knows a lot about insects. As they were proceeding to their destination, Matsumi noticed that they were surrounded by giant hard ticks as they were in their nest, so she used her knowledge to guide everyone in a way so that they would all survive. She tells everyone to conserve their heat by tucking their arms, and they should walk slowly to produce less carbon dioxide and to make as less sound as possible, because the ticks can detect heat, vibrations, and carbon dioxide output. As they were trying to escape, they met their teacher, but she was about to die as she has been infested with a lot of ticks. Seeing this, Mommy freaks out and she runs away as fast as she could. Because of this, the ticks were able to detect them, and they all came to suck them. In order to save everyone, Matsumi made a decision to sacrifice her teacher in order, and somehow, they managed to escape from that nest. After that, they went to submerge themselves in the ocean nearby in order to remove any ticks that might have attached to their bodies. Mommy starts seducing Matsuoka for saving her earlier, and her hands touch the Cave of Wonders, and the flat ground starts rubbing on each other. On the other hand, Gina went to shake the ground with Atsushi because she wants to use him for her benefit because he is the leader of that group. And eventually, they reached their destination, and it was a huge abandoned hospital. They went inside. Then Matsumi tells Atsushi to gather supplies from the medicine room so that she can treat Akira and Chitose. After a while, Atsushi came with the supplies. Matsumi begins treating Chitose and Akira to save their lives. Kai found the power control room and he turned on all the lights in that hospital, and he found food as well, which he brought it all for everyone. While eating their food, Matsumi had an uneasy feeling, and she wonders even though the place is safe and there is food as well. But still, why can they not see a single person on that hospital? After eating, Kai went to search around for a shower room, but instead he saw a horrible sight when he opened a room and he screamed loudly. Everyone hears his scream, and immediately the hospital starts shaking due to the flapping of wings of a large insect. Akira immediately regains his consciousness and starts moving crazily, and his eyes starts protruding out. Apparently, he was infected by a parasite earlier, and it has taken over his body. He runs outside and climbs a tower and starts calling for a predator insect. Atsushi tried to save Akira, but Matsumi stops him, telling him that they should go inside the hospital because he is attracting a predator. Atsushi did not listen to her, and he went to save Akira, but the giant insect came and immediately kills Akira. Gino pulls Atsushi and tells him that they should run inside the hospital. They left the others behind and went ahead. They lock the door, and Gino tells them that they might be infected as well, and that's why she locked the door. Chidase regains her consciousness, and she hears Matsumi shouting loudly to open the door. So she tells Gino that she should go to help them. She gets annoyed by her, and she tells Atsushi to shut her mouth using his Excalibur. He strips his pants, but then Kai came and knocked both of them unconscious, and he went to save Matsumi and the others who was outside as well. After that, he tied both Atsushi and Gino, and Matsumi was very happy to see Chidase that she has finally regained her consciousness. They all decide to discuss a plan in order to get rid of that giant insect to survive. The plan was to use a huge light in the tower to attract the insect, and they will kill it using high voltage of electricity. As per the plan, Matsumi went outside and she walks slowly towards the tower, and after climbing it to the top, she puts a cloth to cover the light in the tower and wrap it with a rope. She gave the signal to turn on the light, and then she slid down the tower and ran towards the insect. Using a mini siren that can produce a loud sound, she attracts the insect towards her. The insect immediately chases after her, and she guides it towards the tower with lights. On reaching there, she immediately pulls the rope of the lights, but it was stuck, so she had no choice but to climb up, and somehow she was able to open the cloth to shine the light. The insect immediately went after the light, and then using a high-voltage electricity, they managed to kill it. And somehow they managed to survive the night thanks to Matsumi and her knowledge. But Matsumi was really sad, and she says to Chidase that she didn't study insects to kill them, and she starts crying. After that, they all had a meeting, and they all agreed to select Chidase as the new leader, and they decides to leave that hospital and go to the next place and try to survive for the next 2 days. Since Atsushi and Gino caused them a lot of trouble, they decide to leave them behind in that hospital. And that is the end of the video. Remember to subscribe and like this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.